Labor Day weekend, we rarely see children. And this morning, there was a whole cloud of them. And so I apologize for starting late, to those of you in the online pews too, but we had to kind of organize things. So thank you for your patience on this Labor Day Sunday, where we gather as we always do to keep kindled a feeling of hope, to nourish our souls and our hearts for the task of building community, to look at each other while knowing that there are other souls in the online pews with us as well, and to be reminded of the connections that we create and build here. Some of you here for the first time, we're so happy to have you. And so on this Labor Day weekend, when we honor the work of the world, as the poet said, common as mud, when we honor all that our ancestors have done to make work safer and better for all, we say welcome to all souls. Where all souls are welcome, you are joyfully called to worship. I invite you to rise in body and or in spirit so that we may join our voices in singing Hush. And in sounding like justice, we remember always that we gather on land always tended and cared for by the Nahantic and Mohegan people. We honor that legacy as we gather together. If you are here for the first time, I invite you to raise your hand so that we may welcome you. I know all these new folks. It's so nice to have you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. You won't always get a round of applause when you enter, but the first time you do, welcome. We're so happy you're here, you and your children. And in the online pews, if anyone is here for the first time, write it in the chat and we will welcome you there. We offer each other a greeting of peace every Sunday, a reminder that we all have the power to share the peace that we hold in our hearts. So let us make a joyful noise as we pass the peace. Peace be with you all. Be with you, Paul.
Good morning. As Reverend Carolyn lights the chalice, please read with me the words that are on the screen. Everybody can be great because anyone can serve. You don't have to have a college degree to serve. You don't have to make your subject and verb agree to serve. You only need a heart full of grace, a self-generated by love.
You've made yourself known. Each week, in addition to lighting our chalice, the symbol of Unitarian Universalists, as many of you know, we light a candle of peace. We do so to hold a particular geography, a particular place in our hearts, a place that we know needs our concern and attention. And so on Labor Day weekend, we are holding in our hearts every strike line in the country right now. There are so many of them. The one, of course, that's receiving the most attention is the Screen Actors Guild and the Writers Guild. Both unions very much paying attention to the rise of artificial intelligence. So this is a labor negotiation that will impact all of us, as most of them do. And so we hold those lines in our hearts, those workers in our hearts, as they work to bring together a contract that will impact all of us in one way or another. Amen. So you all know, this sermon is a bit wonkier than is typical. So there will be, in two different areas, part of the reading projected here so that you can read along. There are some fancy words and complicated sentence structures that I did my best to edit to make it easier to hear. But please take advantage, those of you at home, of course, to read along in the more complex ways of articulating some of these ideas. Paul.
When Reverend Carolyn asked me to do this reading, and I looked it over, I said, Reverend Carolyn, there's a lot of big words here. And she said, you used to be a teacher, handle it. This is from an article 2019 in The Atlantic magazine. It's titled, Workism is Making Americans Miserable, by Derek Thompson. In this article, he actually introduces, for the first time, the term workism, and defines the term. Here's the reading. Workism is among the most potent of the new religions competing for congregants. But our desks were never meant to be our altars. The modern labor force evolved to serve the needs of consumers and capitalists, not to satisfy tens of millions of people seeking transcendence at the office. It's hard to self-actualize on the job, whether you're a cashier, one of the most common occupations in the U.S., or a white-collar worker who has long periods of stasis, boredom, and busy work. This mismatch between expectations and reality is a recipe for severe disappointment, if not outright misery. And it might explain why rates of depression and anxiety in the U.S. are substantially higher than they were in the 1980s, according to a 2014 study. The text is, you can follow along as I read. One of the benefits of being an observant Christian, Muslim, or Zoroastrian is that these God-fearing worshipers put their faith in an intangible an unfalsifiable force of goodness. But work is tangible, and success is often falsified. To make either the centerpiece of one's life is to place one's esteem in the mercurial hands of the market. To be a workist is to worship a God with firing power. So ends our reading.
Thank you, Bill. That's beautiful. Hi, Ben and Nancy. Good to see you. Okay. So I will begin with a caveat. When thinking about work in any way, work as meaning, work as identity, work as the means to financial security, it is irresponsible to do so without acknowledging the inherent role of class and the impact of the inherent historical and stubborn inequities baked into an American capitalist system. Welcome to All Souls for the first time. So I'm acknowledging that right now, but both the shock that the first time may bring, but also that fact. And I'll add this wisdom to that acknowledgement. Reverend Dr. King famously said, and we all have heard a number of times before, that all work has dignity. Remember that he was assassinated at a sanitation workers' strike. And he also said, as we all said together, everybody can be great because anybody can serve. You don't have to have a college degree to serve. You don't have to make your subject and verb agree in order to serve. You only need a heart full of grace, a soul generated by love. So this sermon is about people who consider their work as their central identity. And that's not everyone here at All Souls. But do take note that everyone here does have a heart full of grace and a soul generated by love. So we'll keep all of that in the front of our mind as we embark on this reflection, indeed, on this Labor Day holiday. So here we go. I bet actually that you can guess the meaning of workism, the definition of workism. The word Derek Thompson uses in the essay that inspired this sermon. I think that it relates to a phrase that I have dissed in sermons past: crazy busy. Crazy busy, as in one's life is meaningful, important, perhaps valid, simply because there's so much stuff to do. Worn as a perverse badge of honor, crazy busy is tossed around like something we naturally accept, like the sun coming up every morning. I don't know when or how crazy busy came into common parlance, but I have a feeling that the breadcrumbs would lead to the same malarkey that Thompson examines in his own reflection on the nature and meaning of work in American culture. So here is Thompson's definition. Workism is the belief that work is not only necessary to economic production, but also the centerpiece of one's identity and life's purpose, and the belief that any policy to promote human welfare must always encourage more work. Notice that there are two parts to this definition, one having to do with work as central identity, personal identity, and the other with work being ever tied to human welfare. So we're going to be considering both of those this morning. As so much of this conversation has to do with work replacing religion as a path to meaning and transcendence, let's remind ourselves that religion, that thing we do here at All Souls, religion is about honoring, strengthening, and sharing the values that bind us to each other, to bind together. Religion is a discipline that inspires meaning-making, spiritual nourishment, and yes, beloved community, as described by Reverend Dr. King, once again, who was someone who had a lot to say about work, but who never confused work with religion. That so many Americans do confuse the two in a way has made us, in Thompson's words, miserable. There was a time not so very long ago when the economist John Maynard Keynes, I meant to look up the real definition. Am I pronouncing his name right? Is it Keynes? 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 Keynes. What, Alex? I'm good? Okay, I'm good is what he said. Okay, John, you all know who I'm talking about. He predicted, in 1930, a 15-hour work week. Can you imagine? In 1930, he said, for the first time since his creation, man will be faced with his permanent problem, how to occupy all the leisure. That workers would look not to work, but to leisure for satisfaction, meaning, and expression. Please pardon his exclusive gendering, but can you imagine? Not so long after, in 1957, in the New York Times, an opinion piece predicted that as work becomes easier, our identity will be defined by our hobbies and our family life. If only Instead, the American conception of work, as described by Thompson, has evolved from, listen carefully to this, from jobs to careers to callings. From jobs to careers to callings. It's a not so subtle evolution. The language itself is now more theological than practical. From necessity to status to meaning. I've preached on the do what you love narrative for Labor Days past. It is the message of so many graduation addresses that implies that work is more valid and fulfilling if it is understood as a calling. But our desks were never meant to be our altars, said the wise man. Our desks were never meant to be our altars, as the reading Paul shared points out. We are not meant to seek transcendence at the office, said Thompson. Now, teachers, social workers, therapists, healthcare providers, public health workers, scientists, anybody who works in any kind of nonprofit, maybe this discernment today gets confusing. But even those in the helping professions, those who work in labs, in classrooms, in hospitals, in clinics, a good portion of those of us here gathered, raise your hand if you work in a helping profession or did in the past. Yeah, we are a congregation of social workers, teachers, healthcare providers. We still must consider the question, is my work the centerpiece of my identity? Is it the central way that I find meaning? Is it the only way that I find meaning, community, or that I feel most myself? Has my work become my religion? We all have to ask ourselves those questions. All the workers who came to be known as essential when the pandemic hit, the people who basically keep life from coming to a grinding halt, and without whom our basic infrastructure would collapse. Those of us who work in grocery stores, who collect garbage and recycling, the folks who drive buses and trains, maybe there is less confusion about the difference between work and religion among essential workers. It's an interesting question. And I'll just leave this question here. Perhaps where we've gotten lost is that we are no longer wholly comfortable with or trusting of leisure itself. Are you someone who just can't relax? I know a few of those folks. I see one honest person in the sanctuary. I will not call them out. But you know who you are, Giselle. So this idea of this discomfort around leisure first struck me when in France, you'll remember, it was proposed that the retirement age be raised from 62 to 64. Do y'all remember what happened in France? Those very wise French people flooded the streets. Should I remind us what the retirement age is in the United States? 67. 67. So what originally drew me to this article that inspired the sermon was another one, actually, one that Karen Ethier-Waring, All Souls Board President, had shared with me. And the title of that article is "The Misunderstood Reasons Millions of Americans Stopped Going to Church." And then there was a little link to the article that
I've been quoting more today. But the passage of that article, this passage, hit particularly hard. A new book entitled The Great Dechurching suggests that the defining problem driving out most people who leave church is just how American life works in the 21st century. Contemporary America simply isn't set up to promote mutuality, care, or a common life. Rather, it is designed to maximize individual accomplishment as defined by professional and financial success. Such a system leaves precious little time or energy for forms of community that don't contribute to one's own professional life, or, as one ages, the professional prospects of one's children. Workism, and that's where the hyperlink was at this point, workism reigns in America, and because of it, community in America, religious community included, is a math problem that doesn't add up. Well, the math adds up here at All Souls. As it turns out, choosing a progressive religious life over workism is about as countercultural as you could be in the United States. That adds up to each of us wending our way then to 1 hour of a long work week that is only about mutuality, care, and a common life, and absolutely not about individual accomplishment as defined by professional and financial success. Can I get an amen? Amen. Amen. You'll remember then that the second part of Thompson's definition of workism had to do with human welfare. Human welfare. In his article, Thompson reminds the reader that President Clinton grabbed the neoliberal baton from Ronald Reagan and George H.W. Bush and signed laws that made work the nucleus of welfare policy. All benefits to the most vulnerable among us then were then attached to employment, to work. There is more recently, of course, more interest and enthusiasm for universal policies that decouple work from individuals and families' essential needs. Healthcare, parental leave, subsidized childcare, and a child allowance, as every other wealthy nation in the world provides without attachment to employment. We've got a long way to go. But we begin, of course, with our own selves, of putting work in its proper place by putting our faith in mutual care and community rather than the mercurial hands of the market. For to make work or success one's center is to do precisely that. Can someone grab that? Thank you. Thank you. We best not worship a God with firing power. And so on this Labor Day weekend, let us keep in mind, as Thompson concludes, that the belief, the faith even, that work is not life's product, but its currency. Work is not life's product, it is its currency. And what we choose to buy with it is the ultimate project of living. May it be so. A good and meaningful Labor Day to all, and amen. Amen. Not terribly wonky, but a little bit. Let us enter into a communion of silence to try to absorb those wonky ideas, but mostly to absorb the rightful place of work in who we are.
In light of the theme of this morning's sharing and reflection by Carolyn, Kathy and I offered to give a testimonial. We haven't done that yet, so we thought this would be a good time to do that. So I'm going to invite, before our offertory, I'm going to invite Kathy to come up and share our testimonial to you.
Good morning. I'm Kathy Smith Carolyn and my spouse Paul. This morning we're sharing our journey of how we found our way to All Souls. At the end of June 2015, Paul sort of retired from his 42-year career as an educator, and I returned to my work as an educator that September, and immediately started thinking about retiring from my 36 years. And we began wondering about where this retirement journey would take us. We've always enjoyed doing many things together, reading, singing, traveling, being on the water and in the woods, exploring the world. So we weren't really worried about having things to do during retirement. But we were wondering if we would be happy without a centering community, which work had been for so very long. And our longtime dear friends, Helen and Jim Coleman. Hi, Helen and Jim.
Hi, Helen and Jim.
These friends have always looked after us and guided us, so they suggested that we attend some services at All Souls. And we were familiar with the building, having participated in various events here, like Pass the Guitar, and for several years. So we took Helen and Jim's good advice, and at the beginning of 2016, we committed to exploring All Souls as our centering place. And it quickly became our spiritual home, and we signed the book in the fall of 2016. All Souls to us is a place where we have the opportunity to affirm ourselves and others in the congregation by doing the things we love to do, as well as the things that we are capable of doing with others. We sing for ourselves and the congregation during Sunday services and other events, and we use our professional skills to serve on communities. Paul's currently the vice president of the Board of Trustees, and I'm currently the chairperson of the Nominating and Leadership Development Committee. We serve to contribute to the work of the community, both singing and doing some of the work of and for the congregation feed our souls, make us happy, and help us to become better people in a good place. Mind you, sometimes this involvement is joyful and sometimes it's very challenging. But we continue to be here because we have found this congregation to help us stay connected to ourselves and other good people who together create this welcoming, nourishing, and loving community.
About 10 days ago 20 of us sat in sort of a semicircle in Unity Hall as council. Council is a group that is represented by all the different committee and ministries. Met for the first time since before COVID. This was an opportunity to bring together in the same space to share our common goals and needs. And as I mentioned, participants represent ministries and committees that serve all souls. During the 90 minutes we were together, ideas were shared regarding how we can work together and support each other to build leadership capacity within our congregation. What we all agreed upon as to why we are here is that we each can learn and grow, as well as give and receive. This opportunity that we each have to serve enriches us individually and all of us collectively, and without doubt, it feeds our souls. Finish with a quote from a great little pamphlet titled Serving with Grace. The question to you is, will you accept the challenge and invitation to enrich your spiritual journey? Will you take the opportunity to use your service at All Souls to deepen your spiritual life and further your spiritual journey? Thank you.
Thank you.
And at this time, as we get ready for the offertory, please read the words that are on the screen. We give to the work of All Souls. Our work weaves the fabric of love called community. To this end, we give of ourselves and this our offering.
The offering will be gratefully received. Thank you. Really well done. Got it.
All that you have shared and all that you have sacrificed. Thank you. I want to take a moment now. I neglected to have all of us wave to the folks in the online pews this morning, so let's just wave to them now. We see you, we know that you are here and are grateful for your presence, everyone. Right now we have 32 households in the online pews, and we feel their presence, always, always. We have come to the moment in our shared time in which we remind ourselves and each other of the importance of bearing witness to each other's lives. We do this by sharing the joy and sorrow that we have lived with and through in the week just past. You can do that by writing in the book that is in the lobby. You can send in what you'd like shared to Beloved Community at All Souls. And those of you in the online pews, you can write in the chat, and I will share what you write here in Unity Hall.
Those of you here in Unity Hall, I invite you to come forward as you are so moved to light a candle of intention. That is the time for those of you in the online pews to write in the chat a reminder not to respond to each other, just to make it easier for me to read afterwards. And so this time and this moment, this circle is opened to hold the joy and sorrow of this beloved community. I invite you forward. I invite you to prepare your hearts to receive the joy and sorrow shared. Mary Drake shares gratitude for the birth of her first biologically related great-grandchild, a boy, Gresham Hudson, who was born on August 22nd in Utah. Welcome to Gresham. May he live long and well. We hold in our hearts Sue Frankowitz, who is recovering from surgery. We hope that her recovery is swift. Recovering also from a dip in health is Betsy Fox, who is at Beechwood as she recovers. I know you'll all be thinking of Betsy. Anna Sussler is anticipating Yom Kippur. That's coming soon, and the beauty of that holiday we hold close and we'll be celebrating. Here we go. Reverend Katrina will be preaching
on the Jewish high holiday. And from the online pews, we hear from Vanessa Hawk is celebrating her return to her undergrad degree after pressing pause 14 years ago to look after her own mental health. Good for you, Vanessa. And then starting a family. Vanessa never thought she'd be able to go back, and she is so grateful, and we are so happy for you, Vanessa. Good for you. Good for you. Jessie shares the joy of the turning of the season and gratitude that this area, southeastern Connecticut, has been spared the worst of the weather events this summer. May we have the determination to beat climate change. Jessie, we are all with you on that. Jim and Mary Jane Brustum, who are in the online pews, are grateful for having managed to make it through COVID without major consequences. Yes, many of us celebrate that with you, Jim and Mary Jane, while also holding in our hearts millions of people who are not so fortunate. Earlier, Peter Cooper shared that he has welcomed a 5th grandchild. We celebrate with Peter and his family. And Russell is saying to you, Mary Drake, how wonderful to have a great grandchild. So Russell, we hear you. We hear you in that. Let us enter into a time of prayer and meditation, holding all that has been shared, while also holding what is securely in the sanctuary of our hearts. Spirit of life and of love, in all the ways you are known and named. We enter into this hour reminded of Reverend Dr. King's wisdom, that all have hearts able to serve, that all are able to generate love. May this hour inspire us to generate that love and that grace in a world that so badly needs healing. Across divisions, may we be willing to look at our neighbors and say so very simply, as the poet inspires, good morning. Good morning and good moments. May these be a balm for the grief and the sorrow, the anxiety, the depression, the fearfulness that is present in every human interaction. And may the feeling of joy, the joy of connection, the joy of reunion, may that buoy our spirits so that we may hold our own sorrow in ways that are positive. We give thanks for this day, for all that we may learn in these 24 hours. We give thanks and we say, amen. Amen. Our closing hymn is, of course, bread and roses. I invite you to rise in body and or in spirit and join your voices with gusto as we sing.
We're going to send forth or extinguish the chalice. Okay. Extinguishing the chalice, please read these words after with me. Our service
has ended, but our work is not yet done. May our spirits be renewed and our purpose resolved as we meet the challenges of the week. Our chalice flame is extinguished until once again ignited by the strength of our communion. Those of you in the online pews, I invite you to hold your heart as you reach out to the community beyond, and those of us in Unity Hall to do the same. Reach out and open your hearts. Bread and roses, practicality and beauty, we need both. Without letting work be our identity, without letting work be our religion. Come here for that. Go in peace and return again with great joy. Amen. Amen. I invite you to be seated for the postlude, and this is going to be all of us involved in. Nick? Yeah, we need there's a little bit of technical stagecraft here. Whatever you think.
Good morning, everyone.
Do you need a music stand?
Yeah, he's gonna. I feel like one of these professionals with their roadies here. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I want you to picture yourself in the 1930s. in Harlan County, southeastern Kentucky. And the coal miners in the early 1930s, a 10% cut in the coal miners' pay. So workers unite, right? Unions unite. Led to practically a civil war. And this woman, Florence Reese, put these words to an old Baptist hymn. It's called, "Which Side Are You On? Which Side Are You On?" You're going to sing the chorus, which is quite simple. Which side are you on? And you repeat it 4 times, and there'll be 4 verses. And I also thank Pete Seeger for keeping this song alive. How many of you know this song? Which side are you on? 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 You got it? They say in Harlan County, there are no neutrals there. You'll either be a Union man or you'll be a thug for J.H. Blair. Oh, which side are you on? 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 My daddy was a miner, and I'm a miner's son. He'll be with you fellow workers until this battle's won. Oh, which side are you on? 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 Don't scab for the bosses, don't listen to their lies. Us poor folks haven't got a chance until we organize. Saying, which side are you on? Tell me now, which side are you on? Which side are you on? Which side are you on? Come all you good workers, good news to you I tell. Of all the good old Union has come here to dwell. It's telling, which side are you on? Now tell me now, which side are you on? Which side are you on? Which side are you on? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nick. Thank you so much. Good to sing that. All right, so these are the things that you need to know. If you're here for the first time, you want to know more about All Souls or about Unitarian Universalism, Peggy, wave. You can head over there, the welcome table, there's information, and there's Peggy. What better? Next Sunday is Water Communion and Pies for Peace. It is the start of the new church year. Bring water from home or from your travels. Don't bring pie. We are providing apple hand pies. Because without a kitchen in the midst of the renovation, bringing pies would be too complicated. So that's what we're doing. I'll talk with you afterwards. So I'll tell you more about that, Ginny and Claire. I see you both looking at me. So that's tomorrow. So the Good Neighbor offering is also next week. We always choose a peace building organization. This year, that organization is the Voluntown Peace Trust right here in our neighborhood. The office is closed on Monday in honor of Labor Day. We have a save the date, September 22nd. It is a Friday night. It's the second annual music night and celebration. Many souls and the choir will be singing and sharing their musical gifts, such as Nick, and Paul are organizing this together as they did last year. Last year was so much fun. There were about 100 people here, maybe a little bit more, and we had a great, great time. So if you missed it last year,
make sure to come out this year. That's the 22nd. And I think that is everything. Important to note, the window in the hallway that looks into what our new community room will be now is open, and you can actually see a preview of the room. It's still very rough, but you can get a sense of scope and size, and so so have a peek on your way out. No coffee hour, of course, without a kitchen, but we are here, of course, the space is here for conversation and connection. Those of you here for the first time, again, welcome. Really nice to have you. Same for those of the online pews. And we'll see you next week. Go in peace, everyone.